My name is A-Rival, and I'm an indie developer. I've done a few indie games and a few indie game soundtracks. But I want to talk about this project that I'm currently working on, which is a game by a company called Swordtech Games. And what they created was an RPG in the style of, say, like Earthbound or Final Fantasy VI. And so I'm going to go through what it took to build every single step, because we were trying to get funding, which we were still trying to get funding, but the big thing is trying to build a working prototype to try to give to companies so that they can know that you're serious and you can start discussing other forms of gaming or whatever, right? So the first thing that happened as a company is they're trying to weigh out do we want to build this in-house, or do we want to go to a separate company and have them build a game out? Which is what people do a lot of times. Like, if you have money but you don't know how to program, you don't know programmers, you go to like a separate company and then have them do it for you. At least for a prototype, which is like not a dumb thing to do. We tried that, and the prototype they gave us was really bad. It was terrible. It was awful. So we decided, you know what, we're just going to have to build it ourselves. So then we ended up doing just that. So I'm going to open this project. Pixel Noir. I'd say I'll just jump in to an overall timeline of how it worked out. The first things that were done in Pixel Noir were the graphics, which were just sprite-based. And the second thing that was done was music, and then game design, and then game story after that. In terms of building a prototype, I don't know. One thing that I notice a lot of people do if they're trying to create games is they say, hey, I have a game idea, and then they start rattling off, there's this guy in space, and he finds an artifact, and it feels strong, and it's they start with the story first, and then when it comes to prototyping a game, the story should just be way in the back. Even if your game is super story driven, the story is not very important. And I think a lot of people that I talk to get caught up in the whole creating a scenario and all that stuff, and it's just not it's not that important for a prototype. What they want to see is at least the people that we talk to, when they see a prototype, they want to see progress, they want to see a base foundation, and they also want to see monetization. I say those are the three things. So good foundation, monetization is great. Progress, they'll ask you, hey, when's your next version? And see how your timeline goes to see if you can actually create things quickly. And then the third thing that they ask for is, how will this make money? So you got to think of those things when you're going into this stuff. So I'm just going to open this up. Okay, so I don't know how many of you guys have used Unity. A lot of people. Yeah, I cannot recommend Unity enough. The cool thing about Unity, of course, the best thing about Unity, in my opinion, is being able to build to multiple platforms from a single code base. That is so important because you don't want to be wasting time. If you made a PC version, which, it's easy to develop a PC version, but the people you're pitching to are well, we want an iPhone version. And you're and then you have to create a new prototype. Or if the person you want to show is I want to see an iPhone version, however, all I have is a PC here, Unity can kick something out to the web. So that they can just get an idea. When you meet in person, for the meeting, then you'd be here's the phone version. So, I have my iPads here, so I'll pass it around the game too, so you guys can try to prototype. So let me just open up this scene here. Oh, okay. So that's the thing we're going to talk about right now. The big thing also for prototyping is one lesson that I learned is if you can cut corners on a prototype, do it. One of the problems that I had, it's not really a problem, but a lot of people have, is that they over-engineer. All right, we're going to make the first version of this game, we're going to make sure that everything's in place and everything's wonderful, and you know, I'll be ready for the big game, and that's not that important. The important thing is having something fast, so that when you finally do get the funding, then you can start adding all the bells and whistles and the user interface and stuff like that. If there's one takeaway that I have from this game is that I think I may have made the editor like super robust and it's awesome, but it took a while. So yeah, I kind of wish I would have backed up a little bit on that. But other than that, I think it's been pretty good. Okay, so why am I missing? I'm sorry. I'm freaking out a little bit here because my folder is not in this folder. So. I'm sorry. Anyway, I'm going to switch gears a little bit for now. I have another prototype that I'm building, so I'm going to show you that first. So, I don't understand what this is not doing. So, let's switch over. So, I'm going to talk about another prototype that I made. And this is laser tag game that I made. So, this one is getting pitched to consoles. And I will show you the game right now. So, let's see. This one. Here we go. So this one is intended to be a 4-player game. So I have the split screen right here. I have Xbox controllers with me as well, so I can bust that out in a second, but let's see if we have audio here. We don't. You know who's going to have audio? Anyway, so yeah, this game right here is 4 players, and it's controlled with the Xbox controller. And if you notice a few things here, like when we go back to talking about what's important about a game, the first thing I would say is don't worry about storyline and don't worry about assets in terms of aesthetics. I created these little circles right here just to represent the players, and these little white lines right here just to represent the actual stage itself. So in the grand scheme of things, like as long as they can show something in gameplay, like that's the only thing you want to do. How's that right there? So yeah. Let me show you the things that went into working on this stuff. So, the first thing that I wanted to do was create some sort of mapping system, and something that I would recommend if you're using Unity, something to make your life easier, is to learn the editing system. So, Unity has like standard editors for all of like these objects that are inside of the universe right here. So, like you can create cameras, you can create lights, polygons, all that type of stuff. You can have that all exist within your universe, but you can also basically code ways to interact with those objects custom. That's not a word. But, so yeah, anyway, you can create different custom assets, and one of what I created is the level config custom asset. I just need to put that. But this little editor right here, I'm going to make this bigger. This editor right here is all custom stuff. So I was able to draw all these different lines, just with like regular line draw stuff. And I made all this UI stuff react completely to what's in focus and whatnot. And I made it so that you can move stuff around. I don't know, how well can you guys see that? Can you see that pretty well? Is that okay? Also made it so that you can snap to like different vertexes and stuff like that. All this is all controllable within Unity's editor. So I'm going to show you some of that code. Here is what the code looks like. If you guys are looking for editors, Unity has a bunch of editors built in, but I would recommend work with something like Sublime Text. Do we have Mac users in here? Anybody? Yeah. So Sublime Text is a really nice editor for all of this stuff. It has a lot of really cool functions, like, I'm not going to get into it, It's good, but it's not free. But it has an unlimited trial. Did you have a question? Yes, it is. The problem, I mean, one developer is cool, and I like the, yeah, it's just, it's really clunky, it's kind of crashy, and I only use it if I really need to debug something really hardcore, but I don't do that very often, so, yeah. But, okay, I'll take a few questions right now. It seems like we want to use it. Oh yeah, that's true. Notepad++ is good. VI, if you use is good, it's good. And what's up? Okay, all right. Let's talk about that. Okay, so here's another thing that we should probably mention right now. Unity supports what's called Mono, which is the open source equivalent of .NET. And to program for that, you can use a bunch of different languages, but I recommend that you use C#. And the reason I do is because it's the closest to having the full functionality of .NET within Unity, which gets important when you want to start adding different libraries for .NET, and also it's just a lot cleaner. They have JavaScript, which you probably guys are probably familiar with, but the JavaScript implementation is like, it's iffy at best. But C# is good because you'll learn for this, and that'll be really nice and clean. But then if you guys want to jump to XMA and program stuff for Xbox Live Arcade, then you'll know C# as well. So it's, yeah, I would recommend C#. I can't recommend it that. Okay, so yeah, let's go back. So anyway, Unity's help system is like super crazy and super good. I'm not going to show you. Anyway, I'm going to plug in my controller and we'll see if we get this. Another thing too, I'm just going to mention stuff as we go along. Another thing, instead of just level editors, like custom level editors, another good thing about Unity is that you can create custom inspectors. So right here, if you look to the right, I don't know if you guys can see this because it's kind of light. I can select the number of players over here, what level I want to play on, and this is all stuff you can configure within the script. So it makes it very easy to change the stuff on the fly, so that when you're in the middle of a game, you can just change it and it gets reflected immediately. So that's another really, really good thing about it. Set it to one player. So this is the way that this game looks right now, so I'm not nasty enough to show you. So let's see here. Can I get a volunteer from the audience, anybody? Just come up here, just start walking. Okay, but you can come up here too. I got a weird question for the moderator guy. Do you have any AA batteries? Does anybody have any AA batteries? Do you have 2 of them? Yeah. Can I use them, please? Yeah. Thank you so much. So while we do this, I'll let you move around in this. So this is a twin stick shooter. So right, it should be the right button. So yeah, so it's a laser tag game. You can walk around. Yeah, if anyone's interested, is anyone planning on making a twin stick shooter anytime in the future? We got one guy. One thing I'm going to tell you 3 people there is the built-in dead zones for controllers that they have, don't use them. Use your own, because you'll end up getting really weird rotations on your controls in the world. So yeah, anyway, let's talk about some of the features that I put into this game that were kind of cool. You notice these little white walls that are kind of diagonal? Shoot one of those. You notice that it's bouncing up? Try to make it so that it bounces twice. Try to tilt it. Wait, tilt it. There we go. Alright, so yeah, anyway. So the coding bounces and they go down, Shoot that thing. Circle. Shoot the other one too. Right, walk down. Walk. If you guys can tell me. Oh, you ready? All right, so if you guys notice, once those circles went below the wall, you couldn't see them anymore. And the reason why is because one thing that I coded in this game is line of sight. So if you can show. Oh, okay. I'm going to set this to 2 players real quick so you guys can see. It's the proper. So, I hope this works. Thank you so much. Give this guy a hand real quick. Alright, so I just want to show this just so you can see that I'm actually doing it real good. So, on you're on the right side, you're the red player. On the left side, you're the green player. So the way this works is, you see the white area around the circles? If you get shot in the white area, you don't get hit. Yeah, the front shield. So what you want to do is you want to try to like maneuver around and shoot the body, or shoot a reflecting mirror so that it hits in the back. And what you're trying to do is shoot those orbs that were floating in the middle, and make them go toward your side. If you get both of them on your side, then you win. Yeah, it's like that, yeah. Alright, you guys ready? This game supports 4 players, but I don't have 2 extra controllers. It gets like really wild. But anyway, so the good thing about programming for prototypes for controllers, say Xbox or PS3 or whatever, is that it translates one-to-one to the console that you're trying to develop for. I mean, how many people are interested in developing for mobile? You got a good amount. What about the console? You got console people? Okay. So Unity is just like incredible for developing for mobile, but also for console as well. If you guys don't know, Sony has, and Nintendo too, but people aren't really interested in programming for the Wii U. But Sony has tools for developers, like if you get an indie license, you talk to their developer liaison, you can get direct Unity to PS4 and PS3 and Vita stuff right now. So this game right here is being shown to some Sony guys, and that was the reason why I put them on the dual stick, is because like having a clear path of where you want to get your funding from is really important, because you don't want to be stuck in like cash money limbo. Like as soon as you get money, then you can start doing what you want to do all the time. So anyway, so yeah, so there's the game right there. Did you guys want to go one more time? Okay. Alright. So in the map editor, I was able to make more maps, so I'm gonna switch maps real quick. But yeah, so yeah, you gotta realize so yeah, you want to get the orbs. Don't let the orbs go away. So there's 3 orbs at this level. So yeah, there's 3. Oh! Is this an Xbox One? Oh no, it's just a third one. Alright, okay. Let's roll. You guys ready? Yes. Ready and go. Give it a hand to these guys. I'm not saying that'd be cool. I think I had to like sign up for it. Yeah. Like, hey man, let me in there. All right, so yeah, so I'm gonna move on to the other prototype that I made. Did we have anybody here from last year? What proposal? I showed off another game last year, so I finally made a prototype for this game. So I'll show you. So this game is called Senior Footsies. Yeah. I'm actually going to, while this is going on here, actually, before I get to that, I want to talk about producing for mobile. So, the thing you got to keep in mind when you're producing for mobile is, well, actually, before we get to that, let's talk about some of these assets. Let's talk about these assets. So I was talking about trying to cut corners with assets and not. This right here, like, you know, it's like Mexico or whatever, right? Let's see. I actually did a search on Google image search and searched for Tijuana, and that was like one of the first results. So yeah, so then I took it and just did simple 3D modeling of it and stuff like that. And, you know, it turned out pretty well. It was pretty good. I'll show you what the game looks like right now, and then we'll talk about it. Yeah, it is, I know. Okay, and there's a story behind that. We'll get into it. Okay, so when we talk about 3D stuff, 3D stuff can be really hard to do, but I recommend, actually really recommend, a free program is called Blender. Yeah. So, I didn't know anything about Blender 2 months ago, but the latest thing that I'm making for the laser tag game, which I didn't get done before this just happened, but I was able to learn how to do considerable amount of stuff. Like, this is like, maybe like a month's worth of solid work. It's like learning how to model and learning how to sculpt and grid and stuff like that. Like, you can learn that really easily. There's sites like Blender Cookie that give you like these really in-depth tutorials with like all sorts of stuff, like step-by-step ways to go through each step in the process to make a fully working asset in your game. So, and Blender's completely free, and that was the reason why I picked it. It had a bad reputation because it is free, but honestly, you can make like super dope stuff in it. Did they make Shrek with it? Oh man, see, super good. So yeah, Blender. If you're gonna do any 3D stuff for your game, I would say Blender, 100%, without a doubt. It'll save you like $500, $600. How much is 3ds Max right now? $3,000, really? Yeah, that's, oh man. I know, okay. So, that's awesome. So yeah, anyway, get the assets. There's a direct pipeline from Blender to Unity. So, whether you're using Blender, we'll just go into Unity really easily. So that's amazing. So, when developing for mobile, you have to keep in mind screen real estate. See how the buttons are, they're pretty big, but they're also kind of semi-transparent. You want to have as little finger on the game as possible. So, showing this type of stuff off to a potential buyer or investor, they want to see that you are looking for those little details. So that, you know, if someone's like, because I remember I built a game one time where most of the interaction happened in the center of the screen, and the problem with that is that your whole hand is covering stuff up, and like, you don't think about that stuff until you show a player, and then you look and you're like, oh crap. And then it's too late, but I mean, it's not way too late, you know. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass the game around. I have it on the iPhone, just so you can see. I mean, there's no real good way to show you guys, but it's basically like a one-to-one representation of this game. Underwater.